my job is to live the creative life, applying my imagination not just to my advertising work at 82.5 Communications, but to everything I do, be it acting, writing articles, short stories and poems, photography, or creating my own social media avatar, the English Nut.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Just Ravi, conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the marketing, branding, and the business world. And today we have Sumanto. Hi, it's so wonderful to have you here.
Hi, Just Ravi. It's wonderful to be on your show.
So, Sumanto, you've had an illustrious career in advertising. You worked on many global Indian brands. You won many and many types of awards. So this is an unfair question that I will request you to pick some campaigns and talk about it.
So, one of the campaigns that I can think of, because I'm proud of it, is the Star Plus Nayee Soch campaign, which I worked on a few years ago. It to me it was meaningful. I'll let me describe the. I mean, I'm sure some people may remember it, but not everybody would have seen it. So, the camp basically it was a repositioning of Star Plus, and it was about coming up with this new tagline called Nayee Soch, which was to reflect the new thinking of the brand. Because basically, look, if I look at it from the sort of the lens of the brief, so to speak, the strategic reason for it. I'm a creative person, so I don't like to do it. But basically, past generations of women were all about, trying to make it work within the construct of the family. There was nothing individualistic. The me in many ways would get lost in the we. And then, as that generation grew older and a younger generation of women were growing up, they had a very different outlook on life. And what they felt was that, give me a level playing field and I can do, there's nothing that I can't achieve. It's not about comparing yourself to a man or anything like that, but patriarchy denies us the equal opportunity or a level playing field. So give me that and I'll do everything and more. So I think that was the starting point of it. And I'll just describe a bit of the creative work that we did for it. So one of the films that we did for this campaign, it had Amir Khan in it, and we called the film Gurdeep Singh and Daughters, because Amir Khan played the part of this Sardar, whose name is Gurdeep Singh. He has a mithai shop somewhere, and there is a customer who comes in and he sees that the mithai shop is thriving, and he says, "Wow, you're really doing well." And he said, "It's all thanks to my kids." And the customer says, "Wow, your sons must be really talented." And that's when he says, not sons but daughters, and he points to his two daughters who, like, basically they've taken it online, etc. And when that customer is like really surprised, and when he's leaving, he sees that there, when he'd come into the shop, he'd seen there was some work going on the facade. When he leaves, he realizes that there is a new sign that's been put up which says Gurdeep Singh and Daughters. Now, if you see, anywhere in India and the world, it's always about so and so and sons. So basically, this was that was the twist in the campaign.
Yeah.
Interesting trivia about this film is that Amir Khan had grown his hair and beard for a movie that he was doing at that time. And so we had the name that we initially had for the sweet shop was a Hindu name. And then we realized when we met him that we'd have to dress him up as a Sikh because of his style. So that's when we changed it to Gurdeep Singh. So yeah, and I think that Amir Khan was like the perfect choice because he's a person who's he's known for his principles. he was the host of Satyameva Jayate, which is why he had a very close relationship with Star Plus.
Yeah.
And so when he acts in a role like that, in a video which has a message like that, I think it probably carries more weight than possibly a similar film with maybe another star in it. And it did really well because it was picked up by the international media, and which is unusual because typically when it's there's a campaign for a particular media outlet, the other media outlets don't like to cover it, but in this case I think the message was so powerful that so this was one part of the campaign. And another part of it, I think the two big things, the cultural things in India, are movies and cricket. So if you want to really reach out to a lot of people, it helps to have some association with, movie stars and cricketers. So that was the other leg of the campaign was, we created these TV commercials where there were cricketers like Dhoni and Virat Kohli who were wearing your jersey normally has your last name on it. If you're a cricketer, so they had like their mother's name on it, and they were being questioned, whose name is this, and they said, oh, and if you think about it, your surname typically is your father's surname, your father's name. So they in turn ask the people interrogating them, the journalists, that all these days when we were wearing our father's name, you didn't have an issue, you didn't have any questions about it, but now suddenly because we're wearing our mother's name, you do. But you know what, our mothers have had equal or more of a role in making us what we are today. So it was a beautiful message.
आप सोच रहे होंगे ये नाम किसका है? मेरा ही है। आज मैं जो भी हूँ मम्मी की वजह से भी तो जाहिर सी बात है कि मेरी पहचान भी सिर्फ पापा के नाम से क्यों। मैं जितना कोहली हूँ उतना सरोज भी है कि नहीं?
Star Plus, Nayee Soch.
And I think the other thing is that with communication, when of course it's very important to be on television or digital media or whatever, but sometimes when you take things on ground, it can make a bigger impact. And we managed to do it because there was an actual, one-day international between, I think, India and New Zealand, where the cricketers actually appeared on the field. They played that day with the jerseys with their mothers' names on it. So I think this, this campaign created quite a bit of impact. Not only there were other legs to it, fathers and daughters, pairs of fathers and daughters, where the daughter has been super successful, were interviewed together and they were asked, the father was asked, what did you do, or how did you bring up or the daughter was asked, what is it that your father might have done, which allowed you to shine like this. And because it was all, like I said, the end message was, a woman has tremendous ability, but sometimes society or patriarchy stops her from achieving the final goal. So it was, I think it was a fantastic campaign. It was creative and it was highly effective for the brand. And this picked up the Grand Effie, at the Effies Awards, and the Effies are about creativity and effectiveness together.
Yes.
So getting the Grand Effie, which is the highest award that year, was really some. I mean, of course, it won other creative awards as well, but this one was sort of the crowning glory. So yes, this is
lovely.
A campaign that I'm happy to have been associated with.
Yeah. Sumanto, that's like you're sharing, I hope our audiences can appreciate that. That's the power of a creative message. Even through an ad, it can start a conversation and make you challenge a lot of your assumptions, a lot of things that you've taken for granted. Like just that one board, and that's what you creative people do so beautifully. Just that board of Gurdeep Singh and daughters, it cannot be, I mean, you don't need anything more to say that your daughter is taking your legacy forward.
There's a second campaign that I'd also like to talk about here.
Okay. Yes.
So, so if to continue to show off about my agency,
Please feel
we
free.
won.
Yeah,
So 82.5, we won. There's so this was a Grand Effie winner that I spoke about. Now, there's a second Grand Effie winner that I'm going to talk about now, and that
Okay.
is the Bisleri Camels campaign, as I like to call it.
Okay.
So just talking about the campaign first. So it's the backdrop again is that Bisleri has been a major player, in bottled water in India, but sometimes your success can turn into against you. And in this case, what happened was Bisleri became almost a generic term for bottled water. And what happened was, you would go to a shop and ask for a Bisleri, and the shopkeeper would hand you any brand of some local brand of bottled water, and sometimes you just accept it. That's the way it was. So I think that the starting point of the brief for this campaign was to address that, in a sense, to sort of bring up the saliency of the brand, and so basically say that people who really know, or samajhdar people, should actually ask for and insist on this brand. We said, in the Indian context, who's a bigger authority on water than the camels of the great Indian desert, So that I think was and of course the camels became these really lovable and these cheeky camels that we see in the various films that have come up over the different phases of the campaign. And there was even an animated series which we worked on.
अरे भैया 2 बिस्लरी दियो।
ये ले थारी बिस्लरी।
ये बिस्लरी है?
हाँ हाँ बिस्लरी है।
भैया ऊंट हैं, गधे नहीं।
अरे बिस्लरी निकाल बिस्लरी।
समझदार जानते हैं कि हर पानी की बोतल बिस्लरी नहीं, इसलिए सिर्फ
पियो बिस्लरी।
And I just want to talk about another feather in the brand's cap, which is that the brand was also adjudged. They were the most trusted brands of India. It was adjudged as the most trusted brand in India. So that that's fantastic. I mean, of course, that's not only because of this campaign, but I think this campaign also helped get it there.
Any other campaign, Sumanto, you'd like
Yeah. So there are a couple of other campaigns that I'll just talk about. So, on one of our biggest clients is Himalaya, the Himalaya personal care. So there's a brand of theirs. One of the brands of theirs that we work on is it's the Himalaya Purifying Neem face wash. It's normally the multinational brands like the Unilevers and P&Gs and their personal care products, their soaps and their body washes and face washes that rule the roost. But in this particular category, the category leader is the Himalaya Neem face wash. It's almost like 1/3 of the market is owned by this brand. And so I'll just tell you the story, behind the success of the brand. So first of all, I think it's the product itself. Neem is something which, it goes back for millennia in Indian culture and history, and people have very, very positive associations with this leaf or this entire tree. Actually, every part of this tree is used for various things, and it's supposed to have tremendous therapeutic sort of power.
Absolutely.
And so using neem as the key ingredient, I think, was the first ingredient in the success story. And besides that ingredient, I'll tell you, the other thing to me, which is really a fantastic insight that I think they came up with, and possibly we had a small role in, which is that, every brand in this sort of a category goes after a slightly older young woman. But they sort of took a step back and said, let's focus on maybe the 14-year-old girl who's having her first pimple, the pehla pimple. So this focus on the pehla pimple became the second major sort of key in the success story of this brand. So, we actually moved to a much younger audience, and in a sense, we addressed the person when they're most vulnerable, they're very confused, they're very conscious. At that age and that stage of their life is when we started speaking to that young woman. And the third ingredient of this success story was we came up with this creative device, so to speak, of two sisters. There's Chutki, who's the 14-year-old girl, and who does she go? In the Indian context, you go to your Didi, your sister, elder sister, for advice, and who's already been through this in her own life, and she knows. She's the best influencer, an endorser that a brand could have. And in the different stories, the girl might say that I've tried all these different soaps, or I've tried other other hacks that have been recommended to me, but nothing's worked. And the sister says that this is what you need, and she introduces the younger sister to this face wash. And so that's I think that the young girl and her elder sister, and this lovely banter that goes on between them, the loving relationship, the charm bit that exists in portraying a relationship like that, has been the magic of the communication of this campaign. And it's like I said, you can't argue against success, because I think it launched in 2007, and today it's the number one brand by far.
दीदी, जब आपको पहला पिंपल हुआ तब क्या किया था?
पहले ऐसे ऐसे छिपाया, फिर घर पे अलग अलग पेस्ट बनाए, कई सोप्स भी बदल के देखे, तरह तरह के क्रीम्स भी ट्राई की, पर पिंपल नहीं गया।
फिर ठीक कैसे हुआ?
चुटकी, ये है ना
हिमालय प्यूरिफाइंग नीम फेस वॉश।
इसमें है नीम और हल्दी के कुदरती गुण, जो आपको अनेक तरह के स्किन प्रॉब्लम से सुरक्षा दे।
क्या क्या ट्राई किया?
सिर्फ दीदी।
हिमालय नीम फेस वॉश सबसे पहले।
Like you said, Sumanto, so Indian in the product offering, in the treatment, in the moment of exchange, in the characterization, everything. And it's like the goodness of Neem, and now, we just made it more convenient, because the entire treatment is such, because Didi is telling you, Didi is hep enough and in enough, and yet she has gone through that phase. And you've got them young also then, that is the beauty of it. Once, like you said, that point in time, I am looking, and I am going to change and adopt, and it can stick with me, So beautifully done. So, Sumanto, now, the trajectory that you've had, it's a long one, and you've seen the change.
I'm ancient,
and you've seen it all, you see, and you are witnessing right now also. So, if you had to point out a few things that, because there's a lot of noise around this, Sumanto. Clients now want this, consumers now want this, advertising is dead, brands, the fabric of brands has changed. I mean, a lot of noise here, but there's certain things, which are classic, which will never change just because we are human beings.
So I think that at the heart of it, of communication at any point in time, be it when we were doing print advertising, radio advertising, television advertising, or digital advertising, it's storytelling that connects to human beings, because human beings are hardwired for storytelling. If you think back to when you were a child and your parents or your grandmother told you stories, human beings use stories to understand and explain the world around them. So yes, I think that when the medium changes, you have to understand the medium well enough to be able to tell the story using the technology of the medium, but you're still telling a story. If if you think about it, I know that, like, especially a couple of years ago, we were told that, these long, 30-second TV commercial is dead, or a 30-second video, online video is dead, because, people, the new generation doesn't have an attention span beyond 10, first we were told 20 seconds, then 10 seconds, then, 6 seconds. And, it's so funny because I think last year, it was Facebook that came up with this wonderful video, about this shop that Pooja Didi's, I think, mithai and milk shop,
Yeah.
which is more than 6 minutes long. It's like it's a wonderful, I'm a sucker for tear jerkers. So I sat, with tears streaming down my face. It was such a beautiful and memorable story. And it went viral because it just really tugged at your heart, and it was so relevant to the lockdown and what people were going through. This 6 minute plus video came from Facebook, one of the biggest digital social media platforms, and it was the digital and social media gurus who were telling us that long format is dead, nobody has that attention span, and they're the ones. And they've, this year they've come up with another of these wonderful long videos. So people talk about the fact that, now everything has changed. And then you realize at the end of it, nothing has changed, because ultimately you're talking to human beings, and human beings haven't changed that drastically.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they say, what is truer than truth? Story. It's like, like you said, it's a sense-making device used by the mind. So, I mean, if you're giving facts, people are only going to argue back. You tell them a story, they're going to be moved, and they're going to, let emotion take over, or they'll get the message as well. So, absolutely.
And which is not to, sorry, I was saying, which is not to say that, the new technology doesn't have a role, or that the technology adds a different dimension to the story. If you look at there was that Cadbury's celebrations Diwali campaign, where what they did was they used technology to be able to also help out the local businesses that were suffering in the lockdown. And it was amazing that depending on where you were watching that video, it was the names of the, if a piece of jewelry was being shown in that ad, it was the local jeweler store that was being
name was mentioned,
the name of which was appearing as a super. So, and that kept changing depending on which pin code you actually watched the ad. So I'm saying there are wonderful things that you can do with technology, but just remember that it's the story at the heart of it which must be there to appeal to human emotions.
And I guess the challenge with the creative in our advertising professional is to come up with those compelling or signature stories. Like a good brand is telling the same story refreshed over and over again, and yet we tune in and we allow it to appeal those same emotions of that same archetype, and it works for both. So awesome.
Right.
Sumanto, now it's also being said that we are heading towards a purpose economy, a creator's economy, in the sense that everybody is looking for meaning. Everybody wants to contribute and do what is their authentic voice. So in that space, do you think personal branding is going to take on some level of significance, and what do you think that is? What are the aspects of it?
So I think that you mentioned two things. One about being brands that are purpose driven, and the other part is personal branding. So I just want to say something about purpose driven brands, because I think today at the end of the day, there's a lot of research that shows consumers don't really care that much about brands. So in order to make them care about your brand, a lot of brands try to be purpose driven, but and in this era of social media and every bit of information available about every brand to every consumer out there, you have to be really, really authentic, and you have to be really, really careful about the purpose that you espouse, because you have to really live it. You can't just talk about it. I once said that eternal vigilance is the price of social media, and I really think that's true. I mean, if you're let's say you're a sports brand that are telling women that they should live their dream, and then suddenly consumers find out that you have not done the right thing when it came to paying maternity benefits to female athletes, suddenly your whole purpose is going to be called into question. So you need to be really authentic as a brand, because falsity of purpose is, even unintentionally, is something that can run your brand into the ground. In the past, we used to say that if a bad brand is going to be destroyed even more quickly through advertising. So and personal branding is, I think, really it's critical for all of us. And I think that there might be a question of what exactly is personal branding, and a lot of people think that you just tend to think of personal branding, you think immediately about social media, and of course social media is an important part of it. And the way that I like to think of personal branding is, it's the sum total of the offline and online you. When you we in our field of advertising, we do these on ground activations for brands, and then we do a digital amplification of whatever we did on ground. So I like to think of personal branding like that. There is I think, for example, as a professional, what you do at work, what your colleagues think of you, your professional reputation from dealing with your clients, all of that is one cornerstone of that's the offline part of your personal brand. It's what you're actually doing in the real world, and how people are perceiving you doing that in the real world. And then there is the online part of it, which is, at the end of the day, you have to provide insights and expertise which is of relevance to a certain relevant. You have, as a personal brand, also you have a target audience. There are people out there that you're trying to appeal to. If you're an advertising person, then, for example, in my case, if I create communication on social, if I have a social media presence, through that I would like to provide expertise and insights that are relevant to marketing and advertising and communication and branding people. So just to give you an example, there is that I do something called the English Nut, right?
Yes.
And I started the English Nut because I want, English is a passion for me. It's always been. I'm known as a grammar Nazi. I'm known as that annoying person who, if you make a mistake while speaking to me, I just correct you on the fly and keep on nodding and listening to you as if nothing happened. So I'm that person. So I have this passion. I love the English language and I love correcting people. And I'm also an amateur actor, and I love to write scripts. So I said, can I combine all of these things and do something creatively? Because honestly, when you're creating work for brands and clients, at times you don't get to do it the way you want to. You might try to really convince them of a great creative idea, but they'll push back, and ultimately you may have to do something which you don't think is the best or the most creative solution. So I said, let me be my own client in this case. And also I thought that this is going to allow me to really understand the nuts and bolts of social media, which is so important. And I'm not a digital native. I'm a digital dinosaur. So people like me, we were not born into the digital age.
Yes.
So therefore, we've had to learn digital the hard way. We had to learn social media as an older adult. So I think that when I started doing this, I knew that this was going to help me immensely in understanding social media. And since we're creating social media communication for our clients, I thought this would be great. And it did help me tremendously. But an unexpected side effect was that, like, for example, today I'm on LinkedIn, and a lot of my English Nut posts I upload to LinkedIn, and it's got me sort of an audience with a lot of marketing and advertising people who look forward to my videos and other posts. And I think it's helped me grow my stature with that audience. Now, I did not do this. I didn't start out saying that, oh, this is going I never thought that it would help me in this way, but it has. So I think, there is a concept called obliquity, which is this, that, you don't always try to approach a problem in the most direct way. Sometimes, an indirect way works better. Now, another subject which is close to your heart is about the British looting India. And loot is one of the words that you have written and spoken about in the past. Could you talk to us about some of the other words that the British have looted from India?
Oh God, there are so many. I mean, there must be, without exaggeration, close to 1,000 words in the complete the big fat Oxford English Dictionary that have come from Indian languages. But some I wouldn't really count as English words because they're very obviously unchanged Indian words that they put in. Some, however, though very much current in English usage, and many English people don't realize have come from India, to the Indian ear are very obviously Indian, like jungle, bungalow, things that guru, yoga. I mean, many people, oddly enough, in the Western world don't realize that these words have come from Indian languages. But then there are the really surprising ones, words that don't actually look or sound Indian the way the British pronounce them, but which are actually derived from, and then of course mispronounced, Indian words. So one that I particularly was struck by when I discovered it about 10, 15 years ago was shampoo. Because shampoo came from the British saying champo when they got their servants to wash their hair. So press and knead and rub your hair is champo. Everything was an imperative. And then I'm going for a champo became I'm going for a shampoo. And that's how shampoo came into being.
I believe a Bengali by the name of Sheikh Din Muhammad took it,
and he actually set up an entire series of salons or spas where he offered the shampoo, exactly.
Right.
That Sheikh Din Muhammad from Bihar, actually, but Bihar was part of the Bengal presidency. That's
you
what
like to take credit for everything.
You should. The other one was cash, which comes from Tamil. I mean, I had no idea that cash came from. I mean, I could guess that mulligatawny soup was actually mulligatawny, which simply means hot pepper water. And that's in Tamil. But that cash had come from a Tamil word was a discovery to me.
And so beautifully and originally explained and with personal examples, Sumanto. And, like they say, like for a brand, the reason why you need to be authentic is also because you never have to worry about competition. I mean, that's another aspect of it. Because nobody can be you. And what you can give, your legacy, your contribution, and your coming into your own full potential. And that responsibility is entirely yours. And that celebration is also entirely yours. So, love.
So, okay. So what I'll do is I'm going to attempt to recite from a Tagore poem, and then I'm going to recite my own English translation of that.
Okay.
So I would describe this poem in a typical advertising way as an unprayer, because it's not a prayer asking for the typical kind of thing that you would ask for to be protected or whatever. So let me just recite a few lines in Bengali and then, a few lines of my translation in English. বিপদে মোরে রক্ষা করো এ নহে মোর প্রার্থনা বিপদে আমি না জানো করি ভয় দুঃখ তাপে ব্যথিত চিতে নাইবা দিলে সান্ত্বনা দুঃখে জানো করিতে পারি জয় সহায় মোর না যদি জুটে নিজের বল না জানো টুটে সংসারেতে ঘটিলে ক্ষতি লোভিলে শুধু বঞ্চনা নিজের মনে না জানো মানিক হয় আমারে তুমি করিবে ত্রাণ এ নহে মোর প্রার্থনা তরিতে পারি শকতি জানো রয়. So this is not the full poem, it's just a few of the lines.
I just love this language. Oh my God.
So let me, of course, this is Sumanto's translation of Tagore, so it doesn't achieve that height, but at least for those who don't understand Bengali, this might at least, you'll get the meaning of what was being said. So let me just recite that.
Okay.
Protect me from peril. That's not my prayer. It's that I be fearless in danger. Don't console me when my soul's in despair, but my sorrow let me conquer. If there's no one to help, may my own strength suffice. When there's loss in the world, when there's deceit, I pray that my mind doesn't accept defeat. Rescue me. That's not my prayer. It's that I keep the strength to carry on. Don't comfort me with a load that's lighter. Let me be strong so I may take it on. Let me be humble to see you in brightness. And if I'm deceived when there's darkness, let me not doubt you. That is my prayer.
Wow, what a prayer.
Yeah, let's be privileged. Oh my God.
Favorite personal possession?
This laptop, I can't live without it.
3 a.m. friend.
My 3 a.m. friend is Louise Hay, whose meditations I listen to if I can't sleep at 3 a.m., which I listen to on this other friend.
Superb. If you didn't have to sleep, what would you do with that time?
I would be acting. I'd be doing a full-time acting career along with a full-time advertising.
If you could be... Thanks. This is really adding.
Yeah.
If you could be any animal, what would it be and why?
I think I would be a koala bear because, I see they're sleeping all the time.
Your most often used phrase?
Shit happens.
Preferred food cuisine?
Greek.
Okay. Mom's best advice?
Learn to cook.
A book you'd like to gift to all your friends?
Eats, Shoots and Leaves, which is the best and most entertaining guide to learning punctuation.
Most inspiring celebrity?
Richard Branson.
Okay. What's next? Quickly.
What's next is I want to eject myself out of this pandemic.
So, Sumanto, could you share for our audiences your online addresses, which will be in the show notes as well?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll first, because everybody out there, please do like, follow, subscribe to The English Nut. On YouTube, I'm www.youtube.com/The English Nut. On Facebook, it's facebook.com//The English Nut.in. And on Instagram, it's instagram.com/The English Nut. And if you want to follow me personally, then on Twitter, I'm Sumchat, SUMCHAT. On Facebook, I'm spantador.oru, that's SPANTADOR and OURO. And on Instagram, I'm Sumanto_Chattopadhyay. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, and just look for Sumanto Chattopadhyay there. Make sure you subscribe to Jagged with Jasravi. It's not just the name that's cool. From behavioral scientists who advise marketers to stand-up comics shaping Indian popular culture, to planners questioning why boys can't play with pink kitchen sets, you'll find tons of Jagged content on this channel. So do subscribe.